Discovery Season 5, Episodes 1 and 2. Double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Trek Disco, tones 2 for 1. Hey, it is Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you from the heart of Trekland, letting the dust settle just a little bit on all these recent Trek headlines. So, instead of a hot take or a quick take, you get a second opinion from Dr. Trek. Hey, I have been writing, editing, interviewing, witnessing, hosting, archiving, dot connecting, and yes, fanning Star Trek for a few years now. And I just want to say, hey, it's been over 2 years since we've had a Discovery episode, Season 4's finale, right? Now, Season 5 was supposed to be last summer, last fall, until its cancellation, then that little epilogue added, and then it was all pushed into this year. So this strike-thin year, right, to get more promo bang for the buck? In fact, Disco hadn't even been out by the time the new Specific Ship bumper series started, when Strange New Worlds premiered. This is the first time we've seen the Disco in the little intro openings. But hey, it's been 5 months since we've had any Trek, right? The finale of Lower Decks last season, which means it's been 5 months since you've got a second opinion. But here we are. So let's dive in. Hey, dive is a good word. It's an action verb. And boy, have we got action this year on Discovery. Now look, we're up for a chase. And you know, I'd heard over a year ago that it was going to be this homage to, spoilers, to the TNG The Chase classic. I mean, no details, but an exciting new tone, right? It's a puzzle, but without the gloom and doom, you know? We can't let it fall into the wrong hands. I mean, there is that. But I think the powers that be heard loud and clear from the fans that all this dark gloom and doom galactic brinksmanship is getting a little old. Maybe it was time to lighten up. You know, even the ghosts of a One with the Whales time. You know, more caper than cataclysmic. So, yes, we've got 2 episodes, Red Directive and Under the Twin Moons, to kick us off. Now, I'm going to handle them both here in one episode, but I'm going to be, moving through our vaunted second opinion subheads with both episodes at a time. First off, kudos. Yes, kudos to this writer, who, of course, is Michelle Paradise, who's been showrunner since, the end of Season 2, and ever since then has done, traditionally credited for the finale and the opener, with a couple of extras. So that's 9 in all so far. And behind the camera, of course, as director is Olatunde Osunsami, Tunde for his friends. Now, he's an executive producer, but in practical terms, he's the supervising director. He's already got 12 credits on the series and 2 short treks, not to mention the Section 31 backdoor movie, but more on that later. And then for 502, Under the Two Moons, written by Alan McElroy, who's been a writer-producer since Season 2, and altogether he's got 4 prior shared Discovery credits. And in the director's chair, it's Dag Arnikoski, who had been the supervising producer for the directors, over on Picard, and now he's back where he started. He's had 10 directing credits, right, including a short treks, that ambitious Saru backstory shorty, The Brightest Star. So, a really high-power lineup here, the series' best to kick off these first 2 episodes. And speaking of names, everyone's been asking about that memorial card for JP with Love in 501. Well, it turns out that's for JP Lockerer, who had been a much beloved member of the crew, the camera operator since Season 2, and, it was just a devastating loss to them when he died suddenly in May of 2022. And yes, it's another marker how long the cast and crew have been waiting to get to this moment as much as the fans have. Okay, big things, little things. So cool in 501 to hear about the Tholian Republic and the Breen Imperium, and to know that, hey, the things have changed in 800 years. We've got different government names, right? Not assembly, not confederacy. In fact, stay tuned to hear from one of them a little later. And in 2 Moons, 502, we even find that the Breen are infighting among themselves over their leadership. Now, I wonder if that's a clue. Very cool that somebody realized this year makes it a millennium, 1,000 years, since the founding of the Federation. And though they covered their ass, they blamed it on the burn for the decades off. It's actually 29 years too late, but hey, why not group your lesser cast around a table to kick off your new season? Sure, that burn is going to be the pandemic of excuses for everything. Very cool special effects shot. Point of view of going into Spore Drive, Black Alert, from the open shuttle bay. Very cool. Okay, what? A self-sealing stem bolt? Oh, come on. I want to know who's the uber nerd fan who took over the writer's room. And hey, this is cool. I mean, it's got a lot more Greeblies than it did back in the Next Gen days, but that 800-year-old Romulan science ship is a dead ringer for the one that we saw way back in the next phase. But hey, it's also cool to see our stellar cartography maps front and center once again. I mean, there's Kamar right there below the First Federation and kind of to the east of Berengaria for one. I mean, isn't that neat? But I gotta say, there's times when, I don't know, the Romulan, the alien corridors just look a little flat, look a little plastic in the dark even, just a little low budgety. It's such a contrast with most of the rest of the sets. It's like the corridors are the weakest sister. But hey, that triple gag, yeah. Just so you know, that is a Black Alert triple. And they are available now from tripletoys.com. Just saying. It's not product placement. It's synergy with the franchise. Oh, and this first episode and all of them through the series. Big congrats to Carlos Cisco, a story editor, and Eric J. Robbins, staff writers. I got to know them on the picket lines during the strike. They've been with the show as assistants climbing that ladder for ages, and now they're on staff in the final season and out front with the writers. Kudos, guys. I know you've waited a long time. Oh, and even more so in 502, Under the Twin Moons. I'm serious. Who is the fan nerd that knocked everybody out in the writer's room and took over? I mean, there's been more Easter eggs in this episode than a whole bundle of Lower Decks. I mean, look, you've got the Promelians, of all things. Yay. I mean, from TNG's Booby Trap, right? They're an ancient, long-dead race. Fought the battle with the Menthars of Aurelius 9. But that was like in Earth time, the 1400s. That's when they hit their high point and disappeared. But what was the one piece of terminology, the one piece of trivia associated with the Promelians? Lang cycle fusion engines.
The Promelian battlecruiser. With its Lang cycle fusion engines still intact.
What energy source did the Promelians use on their ships?
Lang cycle fusion was most common.
And you heard it here again. And then you've got Saru's quarters. We haven't seen them in ages with all his hanging plants. And his Vihari knife. But once again, as it's been for 30 years, phasers have still, even in the 32nd century, they've still lost wide field, much less a solid beam.
Phasers on stun, wide field, fire.
Pew pew. But my ears did perk up when Admiral Vance was talking about his daughter, Charlie. So Bing, we have a name. She'd previously just been seen and never named. Meanwhile, Paul Stamets called that room he works in engineering. I know, half of you thought it was engineering. Oh, no. It's always been the Spore Drive lab. The Spore Lab. Main engineering was always over there somewhere. Paul wasn't even the chief engineer. Is he now? Did the rooms get rechristened? Was this a 32nd century thing I missed? But speaking of 32nd century, I thought it was cool. For only the 4th time since the big jump, we got one of those 6-digit star dates. First one since early last season. And yes, they are all progressing along. Cool. And the whole thing about the Romulan false front door meant to deceive enemies, right? Right out of TNG's Romulan episodes. Nice use. But I do have some questions. All right, in 501, in Red Directive, Admiral Vance is holographically into a meeting. Okay, that's fine. But he looks from one to the other of the people there as he leaves. Does he know where they're standing? Or is it a thing of when you're having a holo Zoom meeting, on my end, if I'm the one, are the people from the other side, is it two-way? Are there holograms of those people so that I can see where they are and look from one to the other? Is that how it works? Boy, that's a lot of power. Okay, so Fred, which was cool, but he's a Soong-type android, or son of Soong from Alton. Really? They last 800, 900 years? Well, with not allowing for unnatural causes. Okay. Warp bubble? Now, I know that's always been kind of a dumbed-down term to explain to the audience, but to hear the crew constantly talk about the warp bubble, the warp bubble, the warp bubble, whatever happened to subspace field? Now, I guess what, Burnham was excited and she kind of regressed? I don't know. It's all we got. I wish we could cling to subspace field. It just sounds science-y. Okay, 502, Twin Moons, big question. Everyone keeps talking about how the world has changed. How did it change? Are we talking the Federation is not as shaky and dilithium doesn't blow up? I mean, was that like a long, slow process? I thought that was overnight. Keep talking about how everything has changed. Oh, really? Over the last year or two? Okay, our characters are cast, and can I just say, 501 there, Red Directive, it was so cool to see Linus not be a punchline. And it was cool to see we got new bridge crew. Apparently, Sarah Middich has gone on to do some films, and, Tilly's gone on to teach. So we've got new relief ops gold there down front, Lieutenant Gallo, Natalie LeConte, and a perpetually worried-looking Lieutenant Naya on sensors. That's Victoria Sawal. So welcome aboard. Also, Lieutenant Jax, that's Tilly's alarmingly flirty, awkward party pal. Is he going to be back? Okay, I've never understood anything about him, but apparently now Kovich has gone from Mr. Enigma to Mr. Hardass? And what is it that's in Twin Moons in 502? Raynor and Burnham are called on the carpet to get yelled at for what Kovich ordered them to do? And speaking of Raynor, he apparently is a Kelleran. I know. Go back to your obscure DS9 Armageddon game. One of the two species, the ones with the bizarro hair, well, it looks like he's not sharing that after 800, 900 years, but he's got the ears. Different ears, but he's got the ears. But then he starts out in Red Directive as this unredeemed hardass, and then one episode later, with everything that happens, he's like this sympathetic old aging Patton type who's out of his phase. He's capable of having emo scenes. I mean, what an arc is that? Already. Now, our new guys. La'ak, his chart says unspecified species. Well, of course it is. Even with a nameless generic alien background. This kind of Bonnie and Clyde dynamic is actually working. They've actually put some time into writing it and creating scenes, and our actors are really, really pulling it off. Although, on the other side of things, is Maul, she's the daughter of Book's namesake. So, is she a Quajon like him? Or did he have some old burn time mentor from a planet from anywhere that he had access to be mentored by. But out of all this action pack of episode 1, Red Directive, that Saru Tarina scene just keeps building on the chemistry those two have found. Here's Doug acting the hell out of things from under his prosthetics as always. They're so sweet together. And of that entire crazed, unending action episode, that scene, well, that's the one scene in the episode that got audible gasps and sighs of contentment from the screening audience at WonderCon that I saw. In fact, Tunde came out in the panel and said so later. But Saru. Saru. Next episode, 502 Under the Twin Moons, we get Action Saru. Yeah. Shades of Action Barbie, the nickname they gave Dax. Terry Farrell. Yeah, Action Saru. And then shooting spikes again and his high-speed run. And although coming down that hill with the zigzag, I wanted to scream, Serpentine, Sheldon, Serpentine! Oh, come on. You've seen the in-laws, right? And who gave him that moniker, Action Saru? Commander Jet Reno, of course, Tig Notaro. And you're out there wondering, oh, is she going to be in this season still? Yes, she is. I mean, just watch the trailer at the end of 501. You'd better go back and catch it if you missed it. And a chunk of 502 is Dr. Culber wandering in and out of rooms. I guess that's him playing his newfound counselor's card. It's just a little weird to me, but maybe I'm just not feeling it. Okay, I lied. I have more questions. Like, in the big picture of things looking ahead, is Saru really going to be gone that long, away on this other mission? Is Raynor, his second chance at life here as an executive officer, first officer for Burnham, is he really going to last? What do you bet how long he's actually going to make it? And was Raynor as a character just modeled on all the crotchety old Trek fans? Okay. Big question. How many of you saw the Chase connection coming, huh? Okay, well, I did. I knew about it a year ago. But I didn't know all the details. But it was so great to see a live audience. Okay, the WonderCon screening audience again. Oh, just whoop and holler and gasp when those images from the Chase came up on screen. Yes, including good old Jean-Luc. Oh, and a reminder. Progenitor, preservers from the original series. Look, read my companion. Back in the day, Ron Moore, who wrote The Chase, said he really wanted to call the progenitors the preservers and tie all that into canon. But he didn't have the guts to go through with it. But, I mean, you know, the preservers were saving species like American native Indians merged together from Earth by reseeding them on other planets. The progenitors here are talking basic DNA coding level, not evolved species, and seeding them around. So you can make a case for it either way, whatever your little headcanon wants to say. But just know that Ron was there with you for at least the first spark. But overall, it's been interesting not just seeing the first episode, but seeing these two together, because it really strikes me as a tale of two tones. Guys, gals, peeps, I was literally about to declare the middle of the Red Directive as the winner for the longest desert chase scene ever. Sorry, Nemesis, because that whole bonus killer sand tsunami thing. Yeah. Now, look, the screeners we get, the audio mixdown's always muddy, and there are no closed captions. So I was just doing great to even get through that and understand what was happening. Thank goodness, yes, the audio is much better on your regular streaming channel. And I have to say that it's so advanced, it's like magic. The everyday tech of this time period, it still just seemed like it happens because it needs to, not because we've all been let in on the ground rules, especially everything around programmable matter. It's cool visual, but you know what I mean. I mean, the away suit uniform automatically detects the vacuum of space and snaps on with a protective field that's good enough to protect you from flying metal chunks as well. Now, I got to say, it seems like there's an effort to kind of rein some of that in by the end of 502, by Under the Twin Moons. So we'll see how that goes. And all that said, I have to say that Twin Moons is an amazingly throwback, feel-good, thoughtful episode. It's just the antithesis of episode 1. That's why this is like a real yin-yang situation going here. I mean, they are taking time to rehash and review a lot of the character histories and the emo moments. I mean, it's like someone woke up and said, we have been on for 5 of our seasons. There is material here to play with, no matter what century we were living in. The Burnham Saru scene, for one. Oh, my goodness. What a trip down memory lane, but with heart for in the moment. I mean, it's kind of the token conventional wisdom when you're opening a season, when you're opening a pilot in the new series, to have some grabber action, like right off the bat, right? But in Star Trek, sometimes the conventional wisdom isn't always the right path. So no, first blush, second blush, I was not overall too keen on the Red Directive. And I really enjoyed Under the Twin Moons. And then I got to wondering, are these 2 episodes so different in tone, or are they just 2 halves of the whole? Are they just an intentional yin-yang? It's amazing how different the tone, as an individual hour, how different they are. And you could say that's just showing the flexibility of Star Trek and that taking on more tones, but this is Discovery. The former is far more common than the latter. I was just glad to see this pairing. I felt so much better about this season at the end of the 2nd episode than I had the first. I just wish for once that a bridge scene didn't have to automatically equate action. I mean, I would love to see a thoughtful, long, 8-way conversation among the bridge crew about something that's not life and death. Not that any of them are in 502 anyway, but still. Oh, one more thing. A dad and a son with a bike that breaks down right in the path of the killer sand tsunami? Really? Like a Superman movie? I mean, where is the pretty girl who screams and trips on her route? Oh, and what was that 1701 ship in the trailer doing in that blue cloud? Okay. Maybe this is as good as any a place to sign off on this second opinion. But that's what I think. What do you think? Come on, leave a comment below, please, please, please. And like and subscribe while you're at it, would you? Boost the signal. Come on. I dare you to subscribe for some sanity in Star Trek, right? Most of all, hey, if you crave more Dr. Trek and the Trekland point of view, check out every Trek Pod live streaming experience that I do at LarryNemecek.com, would you? Trek well, everybody.